Good morning everybody, unless of course you're watching this video in the evening, in that case good evening. And you're watching Time Travel TV and welcome to the year 1929. Now today we're going to be discussing how Hitler went from literally nobody, well no, not literally nobody, he was him, but he was like a nobody compared to all the other politicians, to the Chancellor of Germany. I know we've already looked at why Hitler became the Führer, this is why he became the Chancellor, so we're going to take a step back. I know I should have done this video first and then the Führer video, but I'm doing it this way round because you know what? I can. So picture, if you will, is 1929 and the financial outlook looks really good. Everything's booming until like October, where something slightly wrong goes happening. It's not very good English, never mind, we're in Germany, it doesn't matter. Something goes slightly wrong, called the Wall Street crash. It's kind of catchy, isn't it? And literally, the American Stock Exchange goes woof, and you go, and the Great Depression starts. Just to let you know, the Wall Street crash wasn't really the only reason for the Great Depression. I'm purposely oversimplifying it here to fit in a shorter video, otherwise we'll literally be here till the end and my video camera's going to run out of memory, okay? So I'm purposely dumbing it down. So let's get back to Germany, because we've gone to New York. Let's get back to Germany in March 1930, shortly afterwards, and the Grand Coalition collapses. And a new guy called Brüning is appointed as the Chancellor. Then, moving forward to September 1930, they have the Reichstag elections, in which extreme parties like the Nazi Party and the KPD is the Communist Party by the way, where the Nazis and the KPD make big gains. For many reasons, probably one of the main reasons is that there were German people were fed up with the current system, so they really wanted to just change things. So, Nazis and KPD make big changes. Well, they don't make big changes, for quite a few people they represent big changes, and there is different. Moving swiftly on to July 1931, and the Great Depression had moved quite a bit over to Germany, and by this time Germany was in a massive financial pickle, to put it mildly. Because literally what happened is that just after the Wall Street crash and the Great Depression was going on, American banks went, oh god, we've loaned all this money to Germans and now we kind of need it back. Because before, what happened is that before the Great Depression, there was the Weimar Republic was in something called the Golden Years, that's what people refer to it as. And probably the main reasons why that is because they were growing fat off American loans. They were borrowing lots of money off America, and now America wanted it all back. And they thought, oh, bottom! And they had to pay it all back, and Germany got in a massive financial pickle. Anyway, the Nazis capitalised on this, and they decided to go all out on their propaganda. And part of their propaganda machine was a terror device called the SA. Now, the SA were basically a load of thugs wearing uniforms who would go around beating other people up like communists because they could, and they liked to show strong defiance. Now, Brüning went, oh, no. Brüning didn't like this, so he decided to ban them in April 1932, although this didn't actually do much because all the SA did was take off their uniforms and beat people up anyway. But, moving swiftly on to April 1932, well we're still in April 1932 by the way, Hindenburg, who's the President of Germany, gets re-elected. The person he was running against was a chap called Hitler, who's a very important man by the way, he becomes very important. Hitler loses to Hindenburg, although Hitler does do quite well, considering Hindenburg is quite a popular man. But anyway, by May 1932, Brüning is forced to resign, and he's replaced by a man called Papen, who forms his government. Then, moving swiftly on, there are new elections in the Reichstag, and the Nazi Party become the biggest party in the Reichstag. Not Papen's party, Hitler's party. So this must mean Hitler becomes Chancellor, right? Wrong. Well, why is this? Because things just don't work like that. Just because you're the leader of the biggest party doesn't mean you're necessarily Chancellor. That's just silly, isn't it? Ta. Anyway, but one of the main reasons why Hindenburg didn't appoint Hitler as the Chancellor after his party became the biggest party was probably because Hindenburg didn't actually trust him that much. He thought he was a jumped-up little Austrian man who was only a corporal in the First World War. In fact, Hitler had a bit of trouble with the big elites. Hindenburg was one of the elites because he was a general in the First World War, and a very respected general he was in the First World War as well. And Hitler always had a bit of a problem with them because he came from a very working class background, a very humble Austrian family, and in the First World War only rose to the rank of a corporal. Although he did get the Iron Cross, I should further add. He did get the Iron Cross. But I'm not going to go there because one day I will do another video about what Hitler did in the First World War and Hitler's early life. But moving swiftly on to September 1932, the Reichstag passes a vote of no confidence in Papen's government. He didn't last long, did he? Although Papen is still clinging on to power with his little fingernails. Anyway, November, there is another Reichstag election. They have a lot of elections, the Reichstag, don't they? There's been literally loads of them in the past few years, since 1929. Anyway, Nazis lose some seats, but they're still the largest party in the Reichstag. You must remember that. By December, though, Papen resigns, to be perfectly honest, he probably should do, because, I mean, his party's lost loads of seats. Not only that, the Reichstag's passed vote no confidence in his government. But by January 1933, he buddies up with Hitler. Now, we already know Hitler's in charge of the largest party in the Reichstag, and that makes him a very powerful man. So Hitler and Papen agree to work together in a coalition government. So you know what this means? Hitler is in the German government for the first time! Anyway, it's very interesting this, because Hitler had been offered places in the German government prior to this, but he'd always refused them. It's very interesting this, because then he was able to say that he wasn't part of the mess. I'll just explain that quickly, that doesn't make much sense. Basically, what his parties did was they basically blamed everybody else for Germany's problems. Which was quite a clever idea, actually, because then they could turn around and say, hey, we didn't make the problem, we're going to solve it. So then they're able to capitalise that for voting. And by refusing to be in government, that means they're not part of the problem. But now he is in government, that must mean he thinks his time is right. So January 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor for the first time. And to be honest, and well, I should further add, by a year later he was big dictator guy of Germany. And if you want to know about that, look at my video on how Hitler became the Führer. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, please subscribe and watch all my other videos. Cheerio!